What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the local meta report here in St. Louis, Missouri. I, of course, am Brad, aka the mayor of Lorcana and co-host of the Rules of Villainy podcast. I apologize if I sound a little under the weather, a little sedated even. I am on some Benadryl for my allergies today, and yeah, we'll see how this goes. I am still dedicated to bringing you this content, which, if you are unfamiliar with, is the latest and greatest in Disney Lorcana winning decks here in our community of St. Louis from our weekly locals. I have 5 decks to share with you today. These are all 3-0 decks from their respective leagues. But before we get into those, I do have one quick announcement, and an announcement that you've probably already heard if you've been on this channel at all for the last several weeks, or if you are unaware. We have the Black Cauldron Cup coming up in October, the weekend of October 9th, 10th, and 11th. It is a 6K weekend, a 5K main event, a 1K run back on Sunday for those still in town and wanting to still compete for great prizing over at Impact Gaming Center in Fairview Heights, Illinois. We are so ecstatic to partner with them once again, as we do every set championship and every big tournament that we can have over at Impact Gaming Center. They are incredible to work with, an incredible place to play, and we hope that you come check that out. We will have details in the description below and all kinds of fun stuff that we'll be announcing between now and the event. So definitely stay in tune with that. Follow us on all the socials. I will be shouting from the rooftops until this event happens that great weekend of October 10th. So definitely check that out. If you can't attend, whether or not you're a local or too far away to travel for it, we will be streaming it live here on the Rules of Villainy channel that entire weekend. So definitely check it out. We have a great community, great players, and it is worth your time to see what is popping over here in the Midwest and what is fixing to be the biggest Disney Lorcana event in the greater St. Louis area to date. So that being said, let's check out 5 decks that you may or may not see at the end of the meta at that tournament. All right, our very first deck of the week should be of no surprise, not a stranger to you at all if you've been following this video series for the entire set. This is the 5th week in a row that Justin is at the top of the leaderboards at the collector store on Tuesday night with Amethyst Amber. I will say a couple other times has been with Amethyst Ruby, but he has since evolved into Amethyst Amber and finding a lot of success with it. There are different variations of this deck, as we talked about last week. This one is not running Raging Storm, which was the game maker for us, for our very own villain Andy in the ICL this past week, where he had a mirror match, a grueling mirror match to the last seconds of the game, of the round, where Raging Storm is what made the difference for him. But maybe Justin wasn't in those mirror matches, or maybe he had better draws. I'm not sure. This deck is full of control, which means a lot of triggers, a lot of back and forth. I don't have his matchups for Tuesday night, but it's evident he did not need Raging Storm to go 3-0. We're looking at the 1-drops of Louisa and Rafiki to come out and establish some kind of challenging presence. We do have the turn 2 ramp that is Grandmother Willow, the everybody's favorite card, and the Ham. Ham is, I do like Ham quite a bit because you can exert him to get the same ramp that you would get for Willow. However, if somebody wanted to challenge into him, he does do 2 damage back. So there is a little bit of kickback there. It depends on what kind of matchup you're up against, whether or not he's even safe to challenge. He might be safe to just do it for a couple turns even. But moving on, we have the Violet and the Cheshire Cat to move some damage when played for Violet, and once per turn with the boost effect when the cat is on the board. But on turn 3, we're probably not playing either one of those because we're ramping straight to the 4-drops with Augustin or Isis Vanderchill, or even the Tigger to get a little bit of tempo in your favor by bouncing something back to the opposing player's hand. We do have Sven, who can rush with Evasive and Challenger 3, making him a 5-3, which is very, very good. And yeah, the rest of the deck is pretty much what you come to expect. Gaston is a huge powerhouse in these Amber decks now, taking care of anything with 5 strength or more that can be paired with the support from Augustin Madrigal. So we don't have Island We here, which is one of the cards, another card that activates that Gaston even more. He did favor the Louisa and the Rafiki. But then we got Mrs. Incredible, Vanessa, who we've talked about for quite a bit the last several weeks in her ability to end a game. By boosting her one time, she goes from a 4-5 quest for 2 into a 4-5 with Evasive, the quest for 3. So an absolute unit in the Whisper of Vanessa there. Hades, Demona, both strong mid-game characters and removal, or at least exertion with Demona and some draw package there. And then one of my favorite cards here is the I almost said the Leaky Cauldron. I don't know what that is from, but the Black Cauldron that allows you to put characters in there from your discard once per turn and pull as many characters out of it once per turn. Either or, you can only do one of those two things. Depending on how much ink you have on the playing the characters part. So spending a lot of time on this deck because it's a very, very good deck and one I'm very interested in, except I don't have the Hades. He's only running 2 Hades here, so I do have one of them. So I'm halfway to running Justin's deck here, and very much a deck that I would consider as we move closer and closer to set championship season. It's hard to believe we're only a couple weeks away from that, but Amethyst Amber is a contender. And congratulations to Justin for getting it done once again, the 5th week in a row. All right, moving on to Wednesday night at Endless Comics and Games, a newer league here in the area that I'm happy to see being fired off each and every week this season. We have another Amethyst Amber deck, this one by Michael, also from Team Snuggly Duckling. And if you take a good look at it here, not a whole lot different than what we saw with Justin's. He does favor the Island Wii at the 1-drop that I did mention before. That activates a little bit more support as well if you're trying to hit that Gaston combo, or the World's Greatest Criminal Mind, which Michael did substitute in here for 1 Gaston because that is a singable song. If you can't find your Gaston, or you want to play the removal for free instead of 5 ink, you can have one of your 3 cost or greater sing this song to do the same effect. So that is a fun card, a good addition to get some free ink out of some removal there. Everything else, we did lose the Violet, but we still have the Cat. The Cat is going to stick around this entire rotation. I can't imagine anything that's going to remove the Cat and its power to move and manipulate damage across the board. Here we do have the Isis for the Exert, this Sven, Dumbo for 4, and yeah, nothing else too different here. The other 2 cards he did add, I do apologize. He did note that he took out the Vanessas to add the Mrs. Incredible here. So he has 2 of the Mrs. Incredible super stretchy. That is a 5/6 quest for 1 that gives you a choice at the start of your turn. The character either gains evasive, or one of your or this character gets +1 lore this turn, depending on what route you want to take and what do you want to utilize her for on that specific turn. So true to her name and her character in The Incredible, she is a very flexible card and a good addition in this deck. I don't know that I favor her over the Vanessa, but she does answer a lot of things and get you across the board a lot quicker, or across the finish line a lot quicker with her lore gain there. 4 of Hades here for Demona. And yeah, super strong deck, as we talked about just previously, and another good pilot behind it, finding a 3-0 with Amber Amethyst. Let's move on to the next one. All right, moving on to one of 2 leagues from our locals on Thursday nights. We're all the way out at Bodax Games. I shouldn't say all the way out. It's literally just down the street from me. But Bodax Games is a pillar store for the Rules of Villainy and a Rules of Villainy Continental Qualifier, North American Continental Qualifier, I should say. Grapes Andy got it done with Emerald Steel with a deck he calls I Don't Give a Honk, which I can only imagine refers to the fact that he is running the Darkwing Duck package in here. What that means is we have the 1-drop Darkwing Duck that is a 2/2 quest for 1. We have the 3-drop Darkwing Duck that is uninkable, that's a 2/5 and quest for 1. Also does a ping damage when played. Those 2 cards are significant because on 2, they both activate the Launchpad, who is a trusty sidekick, 2/3 that can exert, instead of questing him, you can exert him to draw a card and choose and discard a card, unless you have a character named Darkwing Duck in play. That allows you to just keep the card. So free draw there, but also as important on turn 2, if you establish that Darkwing Duck is the 2-cost inkable action, the terror that flaps in the night that deals 2 damage to a chosen opposing character. But if you have a character named Darkwing Duck in play, deal 3 damage instead. And that comes in handy, especially in the mirror here, as an immediate example for you. If you are playing the mirror and they have a Todd on 1, they can play the Vixie on 2, which is a big problem. Not only can they play the Vixie on 2, the 1/3 evasive, but they could also shift the Todd and Copper 3/3 on 2 to be an evasive 2-quester as well. And if you have that terror that flaps in the night, you can get rid of that almost immediately. So that is something to consider in the mirror matchup, or any other matchup that you know that the opposing player is going to drop a 3 body that could be problematic. at that juncture. So that is the Darkwing Duck package in this deck. But let's talk about some other things as well. If he is on the draw, we do have the White Rabbit that is a 2/2 evasive. That can come out on the first play as well. Having an evasive 2/2 on one is absolutely ridiculous. And you'll notice through the rest of the deck here, there is a lot of evasive in it between the White Rabbit, Vixie, the Todd and Copper do team is the word I'm looking for. I warned you guys I was sick tonight, but we'll get through this. We will get through this. But the rest of the deck here, what I wanted to touch upon is the ping ability of this. We already talked about the Darkwing Duck. We talked about the Terror that Flaps in the Night. We have the legendary Angel who can come out and allow you to discard a card once per turn to deal 2 damage across the board, or not across the board, to a chosen character. Again, sick, forgive me. But then we have what I think is a really exciting card in Windstorm. Deal 1 damage to each opposing character and location, then deal 2 damage to each opposing character with evasive and each opposing location with evasive. So again, in the Mirror or in the Ruby Amethyst matchups that are popping up in the meta right now, there is a lot of evasive to be had. So the Windstorm here with a 1 of it is just a tech card, can be really, really good here. In addition to that, we have 1 of the Education in Elimination. That gives you a choice of drawing a card, and chosen character of yours gets +1 lore this turn and gains evasive, or banish a chosen damage character. So another way to get removal there. The other form of removals are, of course, Strength of a Raging Fire, which is nearly always a 4 of in these steel decks, and then 2 of He Hurled His Thunderbolt. We have a little bit of item removal with the Donald Duck 5-drop Inkable that quests for 2. That when he is played, you can banish a chosen item that is going to come into play, especially in the deck we're about to talk about, and I'm not so excited to, but we have to embrace the villainy of the next deck. But before we get on to that one last card, as I did last week, I can't go on without mentioning is Broadway, who is a 4 of in this deck, a 4/6 bodyguard that quests for 2. So I love Broadway. He's probably my favorite gargoyle. And I'm not forgetting to mention Eleanor. She is a strong card. Everybody who plays this game has strong opinions about Eleanor, but we know what she does. If there's 3 characters on the board who are exerted when she comes out or when she's on the board, draw 1. We should do it in order because the order is important. But deal 1 damage to a chosen opposing character, gain 1 lore, and then draw 1 card at the end of your turn. So really, really strong deck. Andy has been on Emerald for a long time, this time pairing it with Steel. And not a bad choice, especially going into this meta and the North American Championship in just a week now, where Find'em and Flatinum might fit into this just fine for the matchups that I'm hoping he doesn't have to run into. But just a little bit of foreshadowing. We're about to talk about that deck. I want to give Andy one last shout out and a massive good luck. And I'm sure I'm going to talk to you several times before you are playing in the qualifier, but want to wish you the best. So, that's not even next week, is it? That's 2 weeks from now. I am so silly. But anyway, again, I'm sick, and I'm going to use that for an excuse the rest of this video. Let's move on to everybody's favorite deck right now. All right, guys, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Kevin. Kevin Control. Without the Kevin, in Megan's case here, getting the 3-0 at Manicore, Game Shop out in O'Fallon. This is the most miserable deck I think Disney Lorcana has ever seen. I have sat across from it a couple of times, and I am not having a good time. In fact, she messaged me and told me she hates how much she enjoyed playing this because the only person having fun is the person playing this deck. It is absolutely bonkers, and I respect that it can exist in this game with only 1 character being here. It's not Kevin, as we'll talk about shortly. She is running Prince Philip, the 9-cost character, so he's not even seeing the board for quite a while, but he does come out and wipe the board with anybody with damage on it. So that's going to come into play because all of this deck does is set up to control you 100%. It doesn't care about lore until it's trying to win in the later half of the game. And what I mean by that is it is building its board up. It's building up its utility with Buzz's Arm. Let's start there at the 2-drop. Buzz's Arm is a 2-drop inkable item that you should never ink with this deck. We're going to ignore the first ability. The second one says exert this item to pay 1 less for the next action or item you play this turn. So you're already ramping your item in action usage here with Buzz's Arm. And this stacks up to the 4 that Megan has in the deck here. So if you play Buzz's Arm on 2, you could play it another one, or you can play it improvise right away here by just exerting it and drawing a card. So it just kind of replaces itself, or I guess improvise replaces itself. You can give something +2 strength or +1 strength, but you're not going to need it at that point. What's going to happen here is you're going to be looking for more Buzz's Arms to gradually make your Raging Storm cheaper and cheaper while your opponent builds your deck. You play that Raging Storm, and then from there you have all the tools you need to stop them. What I mean by that is the adventure book is at 3 inkable item. You can play that, and then every turn you pay 1 ink to essentially draw a card. It says any non-character card or a character named Kevin, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it at the bottom of your deck. Of course, the only cards here, there's only 2 of them in this deck that would ruin the book, and that is the Prince Philip. So you don't want to find that from the adventure book. And you're essentially going to draw a card every turn. We do have other removal items here with Piercing Attack does 2 damage. We have the Horseman Strikes for evasives and also drawing a card. Piercing Attack is actually finding its way into a lot of Emerald decks because it's ignoring Resist, which is really cool. Freeze the Vine banishes all locations. Draw 2 cards and discard a card. So that's just another bit of card draw. Not a lot of locations to have to worry about here unless you're playing against Ruby Amber Boosties. Raging Storm, of course, is an 8-cost action that you're never paying 8 for. You're probably paying 4 with by the time that you're ready to play that. Family Scattered is a card that I do like in here. We talked about this in week 1 when Dylan was running this in his version. I don't think he was running this. He was running a Circle of Life deck, but Family Scattered says chosen opposing opponent chooses 3 of their characters and returns 1 of those cards to their hand, puts 1 in the bottom of their deck and 1 on top of their deck. So it's just a big removal from the board if you don't have the wipe there. Strike a good match to filter a little bit. World's Greatest Criminal Mind, Malicious, Mean, and Scary to pair with the Prince Philip. And yeah, Strange Things stops you from questing. Wither a Flower, deal 2 damage to each opposing damaged character. That can help wipe boards. It's just insane that by the time you want to start getting lore, you're getting it from your Prince Philip. You're getting it from your Enigmatic Ink Caster. So every time you pay 2 cards or more in a turn, then you gain a lore. So it's absolutely wild. One of the things to combat this deck is to just play. Don't slow play. Oh, I saw a tweet from Wochuck today saying you want to beat this deck in a best of 3. You can take it to a draw almost any time because they have to do so much. And as long as you're playing normal and doing normal things, you are going to, at least get the draw from it because they have to do so much to get to 20. You don't have to do as much, but they're taking all of your options away from you. I'm sorry to be such a downer about this deck. It's not fun to play against, and it's a deck that you're going to have to worry about as we approach set championships because there are different variations of it, and they all do the same thing and all have the same annoying tendencies to just stop you in your tracks. So you have to be fast and better than it. So the biggest thing that you can do is play Steal and play Find Them and Flatten Them, which banishes all items if you get that at the most opportune time. The problem is Andy's version, who ran this in week 1 or 2, had Sudden Chill. So if he times that perfectly as well, then you just discard your Find Them and Flatten Them. You never see it again. Because you really don't need to play more than 1 unless you're really tech and heavy against this deck. Man, I don't know. I feel like I've ranted too long about this. There's other cards in here we haven't even talked about. Potion of Malice is a very important deck in this as well, or card in this as well, where each turn you could pay 1 ink and exert this to put a damage counter on a chosen character, or you can banish this item with an exert and banish this item, and each opposing damaged character gains Reckless until the start of your next turn. So you could spend several turns damaging up their board if you can't wipe it, and then just make them Reckless so they can't quest. So they can't quest with that. They can't quest with Strange Things. The Inscrutable Map makes them quest for 1 lore less. So if you have a 1 quester that gets tagged with the Inscrutable Map, man, it's just absolutely insane. I saw Dan Regal from Citizens of Lorcana and Overexerted point out in the CCQ chat over the weekend that he revealed 2 of these cards, one of them being the Inscrutable Map. I forget which of the other that he did, but he's to blame. He is taking the blame for this deck, and so everybody needs to go shout out Dan Regal and say, hey, why'd you have to put these cards in the game, or why'd you have to reveal these? I don't know. I'm ranting too long. I told Megan I was going to spend a lot of time on this one because Woof. Definitely check it out if you like being a sociopath. You're going to find your way to victory. You're going to find a lot of people angry at you. I think two people that Megan played just didn't want to play anymore after she won a round. So uh, that's all I got to say about that. Congratulations to Megan. I know in your heart that you're just a great Lorcana player, but you picked a bad one. You picked a bad one that night. And finally, our last deck of the week comes to you by way of our very own Chip, getting it done at Darkside Comics and Games, going 3-0 on Amethyst Emerald Retro. And we all got to give him a special thank you for being the hero that we deserve and needed by taking out Villain Andy on Kevin Control. So I didn't have to talk about that deck twice this week. So shout out to Chip. Let's talk about his deck. There's a lot to talk about. I'm probably going to miss some of the play lines here because I am not as familiar with it, but let's kind of run through it here. You'll notice right away there's no one drops. Let's actually talk about what this deck is centered around. It is the Retro Evolution device. That is a 3-cost inkable item that says exert and pay 1 ink to banish a chosen character of yours and play a character with cost up to 2 more than the banished character for free. So you're essentially paying 1 ink to ramp the characters that you've already played. It's a pretty nifty device. We saw it in both finalist decks at the CCQ this weekend down in Florida, put on by Additional Ink. So shout out to Ninja Harley for putting that on because he put a lot of work into making that happen. And it was an incredible production to watch. And shout out to Wonderland and his crew for commentating that and bringing us some great Lorcana over the weekend. Retro devices is a wild thing here. Before we get into what that ramps into, let's talk about some of the other cards in here. Looking at the 2 drops here, you'll notice there's no 1 drops. We start with 2 Aladdins here, which opens up a shift line for the Aladdin and Genie team up from the Attack of the Vine set, which allows you to play Sleight of Hand, or the ability Sleight of Hand from the Aladdin and Genie. It says, when you play this character, you may put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. And if you do, draw that number of cards plus 1. So it is hand filtering and draw that is pretty cool. It's a 3/3 quest for 2, so it's easily dealt with, but it probably got all its value in getting the cards that you need if you had to throw some away to do that. Lyle Tiberius York, or Rourke, I should say, because that is his last name, allows you to draw and discard, and if you discard twice, it's a lore siphon from your opponent, so that's something you need to look out for, and on theme with the previous Lyles that we've had in Emerald from the first rotation. Elsa allows you to draw a card. Todd is another draw discard. Dumbo is a fun tech to make anything that you play evasive, 1 character at the time that it is played until the start of your next turn. Lenny to snipe an action and ready itself up anytime an action is played. There's only 1 of in there, so it's a kind of a tech card here for Chip. The Huntsman is another warded character. You'll find that Ward is absolutely insane. The Huntsman comes out there. You can't really touch him. He's a 4/3, and he has a choice to bounce him into a Hades if the revolutionary device exists, or Bushroot, another warded character that quests for 3. You can't do anything about it because of the Ward. Ward is insane. Or he could ramp up to Chernobyls one way or another with the Retro Evolution device, or naturally, and allow you to allow the player to remove a character from your board and play something from their discard. If you get that Chernobog out early enough, it's likely they don't have a character in their discard, and now you have a 5/4 that quests for 2. Another big heavy hitter in this, of course, is Demona. It's weird seeing Demona only at 2 here. Most of the time, people who are running Demona are running 4, but we're running 2 Demonas and 2 of the John Silver, which was also a very heavy card in the CCQ this weekend. We saw Sploosh play this card and stop the game from being won by the opponent by making the characters reckless, or the character that he chose reckless when played and when questing. So John Silver comes out and controls a little bit, as well as, of course, Milo Thatch, possibly the best Emerald card in the game right now. A 5/5 quest for 3 with Ward. And when you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to return a chosen character to their player's hand. So there is a little bit of control there. And then, of course, practical knowledge at the end of your turn. If 2 or more cards are put into your discard, you can draw a card. So there's draw there. Of course, the Prince Philip package with Malicious, Mean, and Scary. Under the Sea has made a return here as well. You get those high cost characters out there early enough, you can sing Under the Sea pretty quickly and take care of low strength boards. And then Woodchuck Guidebook is just an easy draw 2 for 3 ink. So Yeah, the play lines here. Chip can walk you through them a lot better. We talked about having him on the podcast again soon. Hopefully that comes up. We'll talk about this deck. He's been piloting this for a while and having a lot of fun with the retro device. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, which is why we talked about it on the podcast last week. It's a heck of a device, and it's finally getting its due. Happy to see Chip finding success here at the local leagues here with it. So let's move on to the outro. That's going to do it. That's going to wrap up week 5 of the Attack of the Vine meta here in St. Louis, Missouri. I want to thank everybody for submitting their decks and allowing me to celebrate you and the great stores that we get to have and play here in the local community. To everybody tuning in, thank you. I hope you enjoy this kind of content. If you do, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications for any kind of Rules of Villainy content. That includes this report. That includes the live stream we have every Tuesday night, Deck Test Tuesday with Kirsten and Andy, where they test all kinds of meta decks or decks suggested by you guys that you want to see in action and get commentary on and what they like and don't like about it. Definitely check that out. Of course, we have the podcast proper on Fridays. We are currently competing on the ICL. You can see us on the VODs on Wonderland stream or on YouTube, where we had 2 games featured this past week, and we're very proud of our players for finding. I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't want to spoil you if you do go check it out, but it's been a lot of fun and an honor to be on that league with a lot of great players. So definitely check that out. Check the link in the description for the Black Cauldron Cup. We do hope that you consider playing, traveling to come to this great event here in St. Louis. And if not, tune in here on the Rules of Villainy channel. We'll be happy to hang out with you in the chat all weekend long. That being said, thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, happy questing.